제주 영어 교육 도시의 중심 NLCS 제주에서 세계 명문대 출신 엘리트 교사진과 해외 커리큘럼으로 전 세계 상위 1%의 학사 성과를 달성하고 있으며 졸업생들은 세계 최정상급 대학으로 진학하고 있습니다. 전인적인 성장과 함께 꿈을 찾아가는 특별한 교육의 가치. 글로벌 동문 네트워크로 계속됩니다. NLCS 제주가 명문대 진학의 길을 열어갑니다.
Gyeongju, a city that holds 1,000 years of history. The cherished values preserved over time have shaped who we are today. Now, through new encounters, we step into a better future. Sustainability, innovation. With the spirit of connection, a new millennium story begins. As APEC and Gyeongju come together, APEC meets Gyeongju.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong, in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
In his response to tackling job scams involving Korean nationals in Cambodia, President Incheon called for tighter measures against the global phishing scams. Hardline conservative Sanae Takaichi, the leader of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party, has been elected as Japan's first female prime minister in the country's constitutional history. Ahead of the APEC leaders meeting later this month, the APEC finance ministers meeting is in full swing here in South Korea, where finance ministers from 21 countries explore how innovation, finance, and fiscal policy can contribute to sustainable growth in light of an accelerating digital economy. Following an investigation into Korean nationals suspected of running phishing scams in Cambodia, the South Korean government has called for extra efforts to deal with related issues. Our Park Kwon-woo starts us off.
Stronger efforts with an extraordinary response, not business as usual, are needed to tackle international fraud cases. That's what President Lee Jae-myung ordered during a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, following the recent surge in scam cases linked to Koreans in Cambodia.
국가 권력과도 관계가 있다는 설이 있을 정도이기 때문에 쉽게 뿌리 뽑혀지지는 않을 것 같아요. 인력이든 조직이든 필요하면 최대한 확보해 드릴 테니까 새로운 시각으로 좀 접근해 주시길 바랍니다.
He added he's asked for the National Intelligence Service to get involved, citing the crime's international scope. He also urged cooperation among other relevant authorities, including the Foreign Ministry, to think from a new perspective when dealing with the issue. The Foreign Ministry held a separate meeting the same day to assess the situation and review detailed measures. Officials discussed ways of running the Korea-Cambodia Joint Task Force agreed last week, boosting embassy personnel and strengthening cooperation between police authorities of both countries. Meanwhile, investigations into the repatriated Korean suspects from Cambodia, allegedly involved as perpetrators in phishing schemes targeting fellow Koreans, are picking up speed. As of Tuesday, at least 49 of the 64 people transferred to Korea by Cambodian authorities have been arrested, with more to be added, raising expectations that the probe will gain even greater momentum. 박건우, Arirang News.
And President Incheon is urging for stronger safety measures as South Korea heads into one of its busiest times of the year for festivals across the country. Our President Office correspondent Song Yujin has more.
President Lee Jae-myung has reiterated that when it comes to public safety, more is always better than less.
국민 안전에 대해서만큼은 언제나 과하다 싶을 정도로 대비하는 것이 맞습니다.
His remarks at Tuesday's cabinet meeting came as South Korea hosts the APEC economic leaders meeting next week, an event expected to draw tens of thousands of delegates and visitors.
정부는 각 지방정부와 긴밀히 협력하면서 다중 인파가 몰리는 행사에 대한 안전조치 강화 그리고 안전관리에 만전을 기해 주시기 바랍니다.
The country is also bracing for large-scale Halloween gatherings next week. 3 years ago, a deadly crowd crush in Seoul's Itaewon neighborhood just before Halloween claimed the lives of more than 150 people, sparking public outrage and calls for stronger safety measures. During Tuesday's cabinet meeting, the Ministry of the Interior and Safety reported its Halloween crowd control plan.
We will designate a special safety management period for Halloween from October 24th to November 2nd. This year, the number of key crowd control zones will increase from 27 to 29, and for the first time, we will issue a caution crowd alert to raise public awareness and strengthen coordination among relevant agencies.
From October 31st to November 2nd, when crowds are expected to peak, the ministry will deploy personnel for inspection and field response in coordination with local governments, police, and fire authorities. In line with its focus on safety, the president also called for stricter accountability for those responsible for what he described as preventable industrial accidents, citing repeated fatal falls at construction sites that could have been avoided through legally required safety measures. Song Yujin, Arirang News.
South Korea is hosting the APEC Finance and Structural Reform Ministers meeting in Incheon, outlining innovation, finance, and fiscal policies for sustainable growth. Our Park Chun-han reports.
Ahead of the APEC leaders meeting next week, the APEC Finance and Structural Reform Ministers meeting kicked off on Tuesday. During the 3-day meeting from Tuesday through Thursday in Incheon, relevant ministers will discuss ways to achieve sustainable growth in response to the acceleration of the digital economy, including artificial intelligence.
This year, we are poised to take an important step, adopting the Incheon Plan, a new 5-year roadmap for the APEC finance track.
The new 5-year Incheon Plan, Gu addressed, focuses on innovation, finance, fiscal policies, and access and opportunity for all. Notably, the roadmap broadens the traditional focus on financial inclusion by introducing a new pillar dedicated to access and opportunity for all. Under the Incheon Plan, future APEC chair economies will select their annual agenda from the aforementioned pillars and lead discussions accordingly. Koo also highlighted the challenging global landscape marked by policy uncertainty. He pointed to rising trade uncertainties, elevated debt levels, and demographics, as well as climate changes as key issues facing the Asia-Pacific region. He therefore reaffirmed APEC's commitment to cooperation, mutual trust, and unity in addressing these challenges. Starting with the finance ministers meeting on Tuesday, a joint session on innovation and digitalization, and the structural reform ministers' meeting will be held on Wednesday, followed by a joint press conference on Thursday. Park Junan, Arirang News.
South Korean stocks saw another new record high on Tuesday, with the benchmark KOSPI hovering just below the 3,900 mark. Now the index closed at just over 3,823 points, 0.24% higher than Monday's close. Intraday trading saw the KOSPI nudging 3,900, but it eventually fell back as investors cashed in on profit-taking. Semiconductor stocks rose during intraday trading, including those of SK Hynix, which briefly surpassed 500,000 Korean won for the first time, but then closed at 479,000 won and below its Monday's closing price. Samsung Electronics stocks also hit just below 100,000 won, but closed at 97,500 Korean won. South Korea's biggest annual electronics show opened on Tuesday with a spotlight on cutting-edge AI, robotics, and IoT technologies. Our Moon Ji-young was there.
Where an extraordinary spectrum of cutting-edge technology is showcased. Marking its 56th anniversary, the Korea Electronics Show kicked off in Seoul on Tuesday, drawing over 530 companies from 13 countries, including Korea, the United States, France, Japan, and Germany, all eager to showcase the future direction of advanced technologies.
This year's Korea Electronics Show aims to present how artificial intelligence, robots, and mobility technology can come together to shape the future.
Tech giant Samsung Electronics is showcasing optimized AI solutions applied to everyday life, featuring its latest mobile devices, displays, home appliances, as well as the personalized movable screen and transparent micro-LED. Another industry titan, LG Electronics, has highlighted its affectionate intelligence. They demonstrated how AI enables natural conversations with vehicles, transforming them beyond mere transportation into mobile offices or pop-up stores, and also presented cutting-edge displays like immersive, ultra-high-definition micro-LED screens. Beyond consumer applications, one company demonstrated its cutting-edge AI-controlled drone technology. Upon detecting a fire in an inaccessible area, the drone immediately shares this data with a robot, which then enters the fire scene with a fire extinguisher to put out the blaze.
Though humanoid robots are often discussed, they typically function as individual units. We, however, aim to demonstrate the practical feasibility of multiple diverse robots collaborating to achieve a single mission.
Running through this Friday, the show is expected to attract more than 70,000 visitors. Organizers highlight that this year's event is particularly significant due to its strengthened cooperation with the Consumer Technology Association, the organizers of CES. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
The Japanese side elected ultra-conservative Sanae Takaichi as the country's first female prime minister on Tuesday, marking a historic milestone for Japan and a potential turning point for its politics. Pyongyang has more.
Sanae Takaichi, the leader of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, became Japan's 104th prime minister and the first woman to hold the office since the cabinet system was established 140 years ago. Her rise follows the last-minute coalition deal between the LDP and the conservative Japan Innovation Party, forged after its 26-year alliance with the centrist Komeito collapsed. A longtime conservative within the LDP, Takaichi advocates revising Japan's pacifist constitution, bolstering defense, and tightening immigration. She also opposes same-sex marriage and separate surnames for married couples, positions that have stirred debate among moderates and younger voters. While Takaichi's conservative credentials are well known, questions remain about how her ideology will translate into foreign policy, especially when it comes to Korean-Japanese relations. Her past visits to the Yasukuni Shrine, which enshrines Japan's war dead, including convicted war criminals, have often drawn criticism from Japan's East Asian neighbors. Yet some analysts say she may soften that stance now that she's taken the country's top office.
Takaichi is known for very conservative orientation towards history issues with Japan's East Asian neighbors. She continued to pay tribute to the war dead, including convicted war criminals at the Yasukuni Shrine. But after the victory as the leader of LDP, she had stopped herself from going to the shrine in person. So it seems like she'll tone down her hawkish stance vis-a-vis Japan's East Asian neighbors on history issues as Japan's prime minister.
South Korea's foreign ministry said it will continue to maintain close communication with the new Japanese administration and work together to sustain positive momentum in bilateral ties. The ministry noted that both countries, as close neighbors and global partners sharing similar interests amid a rapidly changing strategic and trade environment, should keep striving to advance future-oriented relations. Hyun-yeong, Arirang News.
And President Incheon has congratulated Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi on her election win, saying he hopes to bolster a future-oriented cooperation in a mutually beneficial way. Taking to his social media account on Tuesday, he noted the importance of this hard-to-get relationship, adding that the two neighbors stand at a major turning point amid heightened global uncertainties. He said he looks forward to meeting the new Japanese Prime Minister at the upcoming APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju for constructive dialogue. President Lee added that he hoped for more frequent meetings based upon their so-called shuttle diplomacy. In other news, the top diplomats of the U.S. and Russia held a phone call on Monday local time to prepare for an upcoming summit between their leaders in Budapest. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held a constructive conversation on Monday regarding preparations for a summit. According to a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry, the top diplomats discussed ways to implement the agreements reached during the previous phone talks between Presidents Trump and Putin on the 16th. The U.S. State Department also confirmed that the two discussed follow-up measures to the leaders' recent phone call and added that Rubio emphasized the importance of the upcoming engagements as an opportunity for Washington and Moscow to collaborate on advancing a durable resolution to the Russia-Ukraine war in line with President Trump's vision. Sources say a summit between the two leaders is expected to take place in the first half of November. Following the U.S. president's trip to Japan and South Korea, the Rubio and Lavrov are to make further arrangements when they meet face-to-face. The top diplomats' talks come amid Trump's changing position regarding the war, showing another major shift from his previous position where he said late last month that Ukraine could win back all its territory. Trump said he doesn't think Ukraine can win the war against Russia.
They could still win it. I don't think they will, but they could still win it. I never said they would win it. I said they could win it.
Russia, meanwhile, reiterated its unchanged stance, saying through a foreign ministry spokesperson's interview on Monday with TASS that any peace deal should address the root cause of the conflict to ensure fundamental and long-term peace. Such remarks reaffirmed that Russia would keep holding on to the position that Ukraine's pursuit of NATO membership and the alliance's eastward expansion are the fundamental causes that triggered the conflict. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And now, while all eyes are on whether major tariff deals will be struck at the upcoming APEC leaders meeting, U.S. President Donald Trump says he expects to reach a deal with China, just like he did with South Korea, Japan, and the EU. Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he expects Washington and Beijing to reach what he called a very strong trade deal during his upcoming meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. The comments came Monday during a White House meeting with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, where Trump also highlighted recent fair trade agreements his administration has secured with South Korea and Japan.
We worked out a very fair trade deal. Japan, we worked out a very fair deal. South Korea, where I'll be meeting President Xi, we worked out a very fair deal. And I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China.
Trump reiterated that he plans to meet President Xi in a couple of weeks as South Korea prepares to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in the southeastern city of Gyeongju from October 31st to November 1st. The U.S. president is widely expected to make a state visit to Korea from October 29th to 30th, with the summit offering a key stage for renewed dialogue between the world's two largest economies amid mounting trade tensions. Those tensions have sharply intensified following Beijing's recent decision to tighten export controls on rare earth elements, materials that are essential to the production of advanced electronics, electric vehicles, and military hardware. In response, Trump sharply criticized China for what he described as an extraordinarily aggressive stance on trade, warning that unless progress is made, Washington will double down on punitive measures. Meanwhile, Trump and Australian Prime Minister Albanese signed a new agreement on rare earths and critical minerals on Monday. The deal aims to secure a reliable supply of these vital materials as China moves to tighten its control over global production and exports.
We are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 or 5 months.
The upcoming APEC summit now looms as a crucial test of whether the world's two largest economies can defuse another round of trade confrontation, or whether the latest wave of tariffs will deepen an already fragile global trade environment. 이승재, Arirang News.
South Korea's ruling Democratic Party is moving at full speed with its 3 major reforms, announcing new proposals to reshape both the judiciary and the media. Our political correspondent Moon Hae-ryun joins me in the studio to tell us more. Welcome back, Hae-ryun.
Good evening, Tammy.
So, Hae-ryun, why don't we start with the core of these reform bills? Tell us more.
Right, so the Democratic Party unveiled its judiciary and media reform proposals on Monday, marking a major step in its push to complete the so-called 3 major reforms: prosecutorial, judicial, and the media. Back in September, the ruling bloc pushed through a prosecutorial reform bill that abolishes the existing prosecution service and splits its core functions into separate institutions. Now the focus has shifted to judicial and media reform, both of which the party says are essential to restoring fairness and public trust in key state institutions. Starting with judicial reform, the bill would nearly double the number of Supreme Court justices from 14 to 26. The party says this will help speed up case handling and bring more diverse perspectives to top court deliberations. Once the current plan takes effect, 4 new justices will be appointed each year, meaning that by the 3rd year, the Supreme Court would reach its new total of 26. And with 10 justices' terms, including Chief Justice Cho Lee-dae, set to expire during President Lee Jae-myung's term, the president could end up appointing as many as 22 justices in total. Now, it's worth noting that in South Korea, Supreme Court justices are appointed by the president, but require approval from the National Assembly. The Chief Justice recommends candidates for the positions of associate justices to the president, and this ensures that the judiciary has a role in selecting its own members, limiting excessive executive influence.
And I do have to mention that's a huge change to the judicial structure, but we have to talk about how political parties are reacting to these bills.
That's right. So the proposal has sparked, not surprisingly, some intense debate. So the ruling Democratic Party insists that the reform aims to restore public trust in the judiciary, arguing it will help ensure courts remain politically neutral under any circumstances. So let's take a listen to what its chairman said during the press conference yesterday.
Opposing judicial reform is no different from saying that. Given the opportunity, one can make biased rulings based on political interests. Judicial reform is about legally ensuring political neutrality under all circumstances.
The main opposition People Power Party, however, has condemned the move, calling it a judicial coup and a destruction of judicial independence. They argue that the plan could allow the current administration to stack the Supreme Court with politically favorable justices.
The judicial reform being pushed by the Lee administration is a judicial coup with zero independence and fairness, an attempt by the government to control trials and dictate their outcomes.
During the Legislation and Judiciary Committee audit today on Tuesday, lawmakers continue to clash fiercely, particularly over the proposed appeal to the Constitutional Court system, which effectively creates a fourth level of trial. While this has been excluded from the draft bill as a result of the criticism, the DP plans to develop it after further party consideration. The judicial reform package also proposes diversifying the Justice Recommendation Committee, introducing a judicial performance evaluation system, and expanding public disclosure of court rulings.
Now, Arirang, last but not least, what about the DP's media reform? What are the latest developments?
So the Democratic Party also rolled out its media reform proposal yesterday, targeting the spread of false information or manipulated information online. The bill would introduce a punitive damages system, allowing courts to impose up to 5 times the actual damages on media outlets or YouTubers found to have deliberately spread false content. It also includes fines of up to 1 billion won for repeated offences and measures to confiscate profits gained through false reporting. To prevent misuse of defamation suits by public figures, the proposal adds a clause against lawsuits meant to silence critical reporting. The DP says this is about protecting citizens from misinformation and strengthening responsible journalism, but the PPP warns it could chill press freedom and discourage investigative reporting. With the DP aiming to push these reform bills through within this regular session of the National Assembly that lasts until December, the PPP has vowed to do everything to block the passage of these bills, including a filibuster.
Let's see how that goes. Arirang, thanks so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
As the day went on, the autumn sun shined and the weather got much warmer than the morning. It was still lower than the average for this time of year, but it was easier to be active during the day than in the morning. Temperatures will gradually recover to the average levels, and late autumn weather will appear in the second half of the week. A small amount of rain has been falling around the East Coast, about 5 to 20 millimeters in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province, 5 to 10 millimeters in Busan, Ulsan, and the east coast of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. In addition, as the waves will be strong around these areas, please be aware of coastal safety. Tomorrow morning, Seoul, Chuncheon, and Daejeon will start off at 6 degrees, Daegu and Gyeongju at 11 degrees. Daily highs will up to 18 to 22 degrees all over the country. However, early winter cold is expected to come again early next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.
How to survive in Korea. Weddings. Step 0. Attire. As a guest, dress formal to business casual. Avoid wearing all white, shorts or going topless. Step 1. Arrival time. Arrive 30 minutes prior to the wedding ceremony. Too many cars, too many halls, too many people. There are many twists and turns. Take pictures and shake hands. And write your name vertically, not horizontally in the guest book. Step 2. Or, shibor. 50,000 won, 100,000 won, 150,000 won. Cash gifts are given in these units. Decide on the amount based on your relationship. Write your name vertically on the envelope. Step 3. Wedding etiquette. Fill up the front row. Guests have 3 duties to fulfill: clapping, cheering, and taking pictures. Step 4. Dining. Take off your jacket. This will be your seat from now on. Start with the not your everyday delicacies. Kalbijjim. Yes. Bosa. Yes. Chili shrimps. Definitely yes. Kimbap. Yeah. Only if you can't live without it. No need to pile up food. You have more than one opportunity. Did you survive the wedding? Wait. Did someone catch your eye? What are you waiting for? You're looking fine today.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 APEC은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 APEC 2025로 이어집니다.
sun. Lair the peak.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyeon. With U.S. President Donald Trump set to visit South Korea ahead of the APEC summit in Gyeongju, questions are resurfacing about a possible return to U.S.-North Korea diplomacy. No working-level talks are underway, but Kim Jong-un has opened the door if Washington drops what he calls its fantasy of denuclearization. At the same time, Pyongyang is drawing closer to Moscow, and South Korea is stepping up its own military posture. Tonight, we assess what has changed and what hasn't in the standoff on the Korean Peninsula. For this, we invite Ko Myung-hyun, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy, here in the studio with us. A big welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And also joining us online is Mark Barry, Associate Editor Emeritus at the International Journal on World Peace. Good to see you, Dr. Barry.
And happy to be with you both.
So let's start a discussion with Dr. Go first. So the APEC Gyeongju, of course, it's just days away. How would you interpret the renewed speculation around a possible Trump-Kim meeting, and what would it signal?
Well, first of all, at the most basic level, both Kim Jong-un and President Trump have expressed interest and willingness to engage in dialogue with each other. They expressed that they still have good feelings about each other. So in that sense, the most basic requirement for a meeting is already there, the willingness to sit down together and then discuss. But at the same time, I think this reminds a lot of observers, as well as the media, about possible repeat of this flash meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un back in 2019 in Panmunjom. And I think this is the reason why there are already some reports that the Panmunjom had canceled group tours that was supposed to take place by the end of this month, which coincides with the visit of President Trump for the occasion of the APEC summit meeting in Gyeongju. So clearly there are not just speculations, but also minimum levels of preparation for this flash meeting to take place at any given moment. If in this case, it would be like up to North Korea to decide to come down to Panmunjom and meet with President Trump, because clearly President Trump is ready to have this meeting with Kim Jong-un. But having said that, though, I think what's really makes this potential meeting to be realized, or the sufficient condition for this meeting would be for the United States to at least accept some of the prerequisites for dialogue that North Korea has been repeating over and over for several years by now, which is for the United States to accept North Korea as a nuclear state. So, but then that's not a given, and that's not President Trump, even though he made renewed emphasis for and also highlight his willingness to sit down with Kim Jong-un, has never stepped away from the U.S. government's position on North Korea, which is denuclearization. So, barring for a last-minute change of heart on the part of North Korea and Kim Jong-un, I think the chance of this flash meeting or flash summit in Panmunjom between Kim and Trump is pretty low for now. I would if I really make me say a number, I would say in terms of probability, it would be like 10% for now.
Because of the very clear
Exactly.
precondition that they've mentioned. Now, what about Dr. Barry? So, given that the White House hasn't ruled it out yet, and still, but there's no really working level contact has been confirmed yet, do you see this as a real possible diplomatic opening for both sides?
Well, we should remember in 2019, first of all, there were very thick and extensive contacts enabled by the President Moon administration, but you already had multiple visits by Mike Pompeo, both as CIA Director and Secretary of State. You had some very key people playing liaison roles. I remember Ambassador Sung Kim making many trips to Panmunjom. So it was a different ballgame then, but just the same, the actual amount of time between President Trump's tweet in June 2019, and the actual summit in Panmunjom was about 32 hours. So I don't think we should expect to hear anything for about a day and a half, no more than a day and a half before it happens. But something that's not being talked about is a very important wrinkle to all of this, which is the fact that barring any last-minute cancellation by President Xi of China, at least according to President Trump, they're expected to meet. And I presume the date would probably be October 30th. And if you're Kim Jong-un, and especially having been in the front row of the September 3rd Victory Day parade, you don't want to upstage President Xi. And you know, if President Xi is coming, you have to be extremely careful what you do, how you do it, where you do it, when you do it. And if President Xi doesn't show up, well, that alters the calculations to another extent. So I think that's something that we don't recognize. It's for President Trump, really the only reason he's coming out to Asia. It's not for the ASEAN summit. It's not for APEC. It's to meet with President Xi, something that he had wanted to do for a long time. And at the same time, Trump is trying to rush back because next Tuesday, November 4th, are the 2025 elections. There's 2 governorships. There's 2 special congressional races, all of which are seen as a bellwether of the midterms in 2026. So for Trump, that's the topmost reason for him to return more quickly than he ordinarily ought to do with the APEC summit scheduled through the 1st of November.
Right. There would be more bigger priorities for President Trump, definitely. But we hear that, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, he said that if Washington actually drops its, quote, fantasy of denuclearization and accepts reality, there's no reason not to meet. So given this statement and the messages that Dr. Go and Dr. Berry has mentioned, how do you think we should look into understand, Kim Jong-un's such strong statement?
Well, I think North Korea knows full well that President Trump is not assigning high priority to the North Korean issue. So even though President Trump has expressed repeated his willingness to meet with Kim Jong-un, I think North Koreans have this concern that President Trump is trying to gain time, essentially playing for time, postpone the resolution of the issue for the remainder of his term, and somehow claim success just based on the optics that he's engaged in dialogue with North Korea. When it comes to the substantial issue of North Korea's denuclearization, or from the North Korean's point of view, setting North Korea as a nuclear state, that's a very complicated issue. And then I think North Koreans have this concern that President Trump is going to make use of this issue for his political gain, rather than solving it by investing his own political capital. So I think what North Koreans have as a baseline strategy is to essentially further augment their nuclear capability. And this is exactly what they're doing. But then at the same time, I think there's some temptation in some quarters of the North Korean leadership that President Trump represents a very unique opportunity for North Korea to make a huge strategic leap over South Korea by establishing a very strong relations and dialogue with the most powerful country in the world right now, which is the United States. So I think these 2 contradictory drivers. One is it's a safe strategy of essentially augmenting their physical capability of the nuclear state is being contradicted by this political temptation to reach out across the aisle and reach out to President Trump, because President Trump at least is open about talking to Kim Jong-un. So everything is really up to the North Koreans at the moment. The ball is in their court, and if they decide to take a gamble for another possible opening, then they will do it. But if not, they are not going to, I don't know, maybe they play safe. So again, the chance of a major breakthrough taking place this month is pretty low.
Mm-hmm. Now that brings us to a question that many are asking lately. So whether U.S. and South Korea are under the same table, whether their interests are aligned. Dr. Berry, how would you assess the South Korea-U.S. coordination on North Korea? Do you think both sides are still aligned on whether to engage Pyongyang or maintain pressure?
Well, I think on one hand, in terms of the nuclear issue, it's as if, as I've said many times, as if the Biden administration and the Yoon administration were still in power. There seems to be little change. But I think, as evidenced in the August meeting in the White House, President Lee recognizes that a change maker is President Trump, and the opportunity can come with his own personal relationship that could be rejuvenated with Kim Jong-un. I do think the summit in August went fairly well, but unfortunately, a couple weeks later, you had the whole matter in Georgia with ICE sending back well over 300 Koreans. And just talking to a senior retired New York news executive, television news executive the other day, that person told me that factory in Georgia will never be finished. It'll never open. He just thinks that that's the kind of the measure of how bad relations have become in just a few weeks after the August summit. So I think President Lee strongly supports, especially after the Sharm el-Sheikh summit with 20-plus world leaders that Trump and Egypt's President Sisi presided over. Trump, if nothing else, he has the power of convening, and he could bring together the top world leaders, European leaders, Muslim and Arab leaders. It was absolutely incredible. And I think they came, of course, not just because of President Trump, but because they sensed something much bigger was going to take place that was a once-in-80-year kind of change. But nonetheless, the world leaders recognize President Trump has the power of convening. And I think President Lee recognizes the same thing. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a last-minute possibility, if at all, of any kind of a meeting taking place, probably in the DMZ. And probably President Lee will have to recognize it's better that he not even show up. Not even create an issue, because the ROK DPRK relations are a little bit sour right now. But the purpose of the meeting should be to get reacquainted and to be able to say, let's meet again, whether it be in Pyongyang or maybe even Trump can invite Kim Jong-un to Hickam Air Force Base in Honolulu, Hawaii. There's all sorts of ways to think out of the box. But right now, we just have to see if Kim Jong-un even thinks it's worth taking a step forward at this time, given the events of the last couple of months.
Right, of course. We're just speculating as of the moment, and we'll really have to see until how things unfold until the last minute. But Dr. Berry, let's also turn to external dynamics. So North Korea and Russia deepen cooperation across military and energy sectors. We've been seeing that. How far and how long do you think this partnership could realistically go? And are we seeing the early stages of a durable strategic alliance between the two?
Nothing is durable with Russia, and the centuries of history, particularly of Russia's relations with Northeast Asia, definitely prove that. But that being said, I was actually quite gladdened to read from TASS that Russia may well help rebuild the electric grid and the energy infrastructure for North Korea, which is something that is just sorely needed. And we see small signs, of course, the bridge over the Tumen River that Russia is constructing. These are small but important steps forward. But right now, the function of North Korean workers is to primarily build drones, not to have their troops fighting in Kursk anymore. And one of the issues with the Tomahawk missile possibly being given to Zelensky, it may not happen, but that Tomahawks would find many of these drone factories at which North Korean workers work to be within range. And North Korean workers could be directly attacked and killed by Ukrainians if the Tomahawks were given and the permission granted to hit those kinds of targets. But in the long run, I believe that the relations with Russia are a lot less permanent than those with China, and that's why Kim Jong-un put so much stress on rebuilding the relationship with President Xi, because they share an 880-mile common border and a much of a common history of a strong tried and true relationship. So it's anyone's guess, but at the same time, I think Kim Jong-un recognizes that if Trump is meeting Putin again for the second time and is about to meet President Xi, then he should get on the bandwagon. So that's why I have a little bit of optimism that somehow something will happen. If it doesn't happen around APEC, it may happen early next year.
Right, and we'll have to keep close tabs on that. Now, there's also evidence that North Korean cluster munitions have been modified and used by Russia in Ukraine. Dr. Go, what does this actually reveal about Pyongyang's evolving role in the global arms supply chains?
Well, it reveals that the North Koreans are more in touch with the Russians, especially when it comes to reflecting the battlefield conditions in Ukraine, almost in real time. This is why this discovery of North Korean cluster munitions in Ukraine is very revealing, is because these cluster munitions weren't used in artillery shells and a rocket, which North Koreans have already supplied Russia with. It was used in drones. So Russians are one of the. I mean, they have introduced widespread use of drones for offensive purposes, and then they are coming up with new tactics that employs drones to attack each adversaries. And what's interesting is that North Koreans have adapted this. In fact, these cluster munitions were manufactured in the year 2000, apparently. So it was manufactured 20 years ago, but North Koreans have adopted these munitions to be used in drones, which didn't exist when these munitions were manufactured 20 years ago. So this shows that the Russians and North Koreans are working very closely, and clearly Russians are passing to North Koreans the battlefield conditions, as well as the lessons of the ongoing war in Ukraine, so that North Koreans can somehow adapt their existing weapon systems and munitions for the Russian needs today. So I think this shows that North Koreans have moved on from just cleaning out their warehouses of old munitions and supplying to the Russians on a one-time basis to something that's more just-in-time, kind of a closer supply chain. So it's interesting that essentially the North Koreans have created an just-in-time supply chain for the Russians, and that I think is a remarkable level of cooperation that we're observing right now between Russia and North Korea.
A very concerning cooperation too. So if this actually will become confirmed, Dr. Berry, do you think would this violate UN Security Council resolutions or international law? And realistically, what kind of consequences could follow?
There was a convention signed in 2008, of which the United States and Russia and North Korea and a bunch of other nations like Brazil and I think India did not sign it. The U.S. position is that they are viable, useful, and important tactically weapons to be used. But the reason that they were banned and about 125 or so countries have signed on to that convention is because of what they call the dud factor. They don't, oftentimes the fuse doesn't go off because of the way these things land. And the dud factor is the smallest for the U.S., and I think that's one of the reasons the U.S. has not signed the convention, but it's the highest for Russia and probably, for North Korea as well. But it's not actually violating, to my understanding, and I'm not an international lawyer, but my understanding is it's not violating any Security Council resolutions. And as they're not signatories, Russia and North Korea, to the convention, then it's not violating international law. But frankly, I'm increasingly concerned that the nuclear program of North Korea is maybe less important to be alarmed about than North Korea's fast learning capacity to learn all about drones and what to do, what not to do, and how to build inexpensive munitions that could soon be a threat to any of its neighbors, not just South Korea, but even to Japan or to China. So it's becoming like a new North Korea that has a whole different outlook of what it can do, and it will not necessarily be reliant on unproven ability to deliver a warhead, halfway across the world. It will always be a concern, but much more palpably is the concern about drones and the application of things like the cluster munitions to the drones.
Right. It's definitely really concerning. And in fact, North Korea also upgraded its own capabilities as well. The revealing of the new Hwasong-20 ICBM. Dr. Go, how significant do you think this is? And what does this indicate about their long-range strike?
It's more of a milestone in the history of North Korean's ICBM program than people give credit to. The reason is because North Koreans actually publicized the fact that this new ICBM uses significant quantities of composite materials. So essentially carbon fiber-based advanced materials that has the advantage of giving lightweight for the missiles or rockets, so that the weight savings for the rockets can translate to a bigger payload. So now North Korea can carry much more heavier payload warhead, and as well as a much more robust and then resilient system for their intercontinental ballistic missiles. So I think this is another way the North Koreans are hinting at the fact that they probably have acquired or completed the development of a multiple independent reentry vehicle, meaning MIRV, which are it's a warhead that can carry multiple. It's a payload that can carry multiple warheads in one single missile. So I think North Koreans essentially reached the highest level of ICBM development, and that means that the threat factor that these North Korean ICBMs represent have gone up by an order of magnitude. So the Hwasong-20 is in a way the closest to a game changer since North Koreans broke this limit on the missile ranges like 7 years ago. So in that sense, I think we should be very concerned about this development.
Right, clear advancement indeed. Now, following this, South Korea, we hear that South Korea is preparing to deploy the Hyunwoo-5 by the end of this year. Do you think it's really the right step towards deterrence, or do you think it could actually risk provoking the situation?
Well, absolutely. I think Hyunwoo-5 is like, in fact, a Korean response, South Korean response to North Korea's nuclear threat. Hyunwoo-5 is unique in the sense that its payload is huge. So if the North Korean ICBMs can carry a maximum payload of 1.5 tons, Hyunwoo-5 can take 6 times that, 9 tons of warhead. So, but the difference being that the North Korean ICBMs carries a nuclear warhead, whereas the Hyunwoo-5 carries a conventional warhead. But then I think the technology, the precision, as well as the size of the payload shows that the South Korea can effectively target North Korea's missile infrastructure. And I think the South Korean government is planning to roll out 200 of these Hyunwoo-5s. So I think, and the reason why these are 200 is because North Korea, in terms of geographic extent, is a very small country. So there are so many corners that North Koreans can hide their ICBMs in. And so that means that if South Korea can target all of those secret corners where North Koreans can conceivably hide their nuclear missiles, then that means that South Korea, theoretically speaking, can neutralize North Korea's nuclear threat, even before North Korea successfully can attempt to launch those missiles. So I think Hyunwoo-5 is actually a very effective response to the North Korea's nuclear threat, short of South Korea having a stronger extended deterrence or its own nuclear capability.
Right, so it seems to send a double message, like both capability and resolve to multiple audiences, especially North Korea, of course. Now, finally, before we conclude, so North Korea is advancing both its arsenal and its alignment with authoritarian powers. Dr. Berry, what core strategies do you think should guide Washington and Seoul heading into 2026?
Well, on the short term, I'm very concerned about the relationship between President Trump and President Lee. You know, Laura Loomer, the conspiracy theorist who helped get rid of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and also the four-star general who was in charge of the National Security Agency, she has consistently said on Twitter, on X, that President Lee is a communist, that he's utterly pro-China, and that the president is persecuting MAGA supporters and Charlie Kirk supporters. And the reason this is important and why I bring it up is because every night that the president is in Washington or in Mar-a-Lago, she calls him up in the evening. It's a regular phone call, and he checks in with her. So when she says these things to him, I'm not saying he fully believes them, but they influence him. And when he gets word from other people, whether they be former Speaker Newt Gingrich or other people, Steve Bannon, whatever they may be telling him, directly or indirectly, this influences him. So I'm afraid there's going to be a rather icy meeting, a bilateral meeting, and that's what concerns me in the short term. But in the long run, I think President Lee is going to have to adopt the strategy of Canada, of European nations, of many other nations, which is directly to President Trump, you say yes, 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 but actually what you do in the long run is to reposition yourself and find alternative avenues to achieve your goals, because in the long run, it may be becoming more and more apparent that the United States is going to be less and less dependable. And it's not just an issue of President Trump, it's an issue of the trajectory that the American nation is now going as it gets to the mountain of 250th anniversary and beyond. The world has to become much more interdependent of its previous dependencies on the United States.
Right. So the Lee administration might have to look for another strategy moving forward. But,
over the next 5 years, right.
Over 5 years. I'm afraid we'll have to conclude our discussion here tonight. Dr. Berry, thank you so much for your insights.
Welcome.
And Dr. Go, of course, we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Mm-hmm.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.